Hello everyone, welcome back, Jane Online. So in this video, we will learn about underfitting, underfitting problem, like when the model face underfitting problem and what are the solutions for it. Okay, so let's start. So here in this tutorial, we can understand underfitting problem. So underfitting problem is the situation when your model is not properly fit into the data. So for example, you can see this is the example that this plot is the example of linear regression problem, and the line that is fitting into this data is not properly fitted, right? It actually fit into the very less amount of data, and rest of the data is like line is not able to approximate other data points. So this situation is called underfitting problem. So here, like when a model has not learned the patterns in the training data well and is unable to generalize well on the new data, it is known as underfitting. An underfit model has poor performance on training data and will result in unreliable predictions. Underfitting occurs due to high bias and low variance. So what happens here is like the model, this is the training data, and the model is not properly fitted in the data set, and it has bad performance during training data as well as in the validation data. So what are the reason for underfitting problem? Let's go for it. Here, data used for training is not clean and contains noise. So same problem here as we had all seen in the last video of overfitting problem. So if your data is not properly cleaned, like if your data somewhere the value is in your data set, some values are nan value and you have not removed the nan values and infinity values, so those values will be a problem for a model to generate a good performance, right? So you have to properly clean your data, and then before going to implement the model, you have to properly clean the data, like remove all the nan values and infinity values from the data set. And the second reason is like the model has a high bias. If the model has a high bias, in that situation also your model will show underfitting problem. And the third reason is the size of the training data set used is not enough. So again, like the very famous reason, like most of the cases, this problem comes in the model, like training. If your training data set size is very small, then model will not be able to learn enough. So in that situation, you have to increase the number of examples by adding more variety and more variation in the data points samples, and in this way model will be able to learn the variation in the data set, and it will be able to generalize well. And the fourth reason is the model is too simple. Yes, this might be also the reason. So here, so for example, suppose you have good data set with the good size. There is no problem with the training data set size, and you have everything. You have already cleaned the data, so everything is good enough now. But if your model is too simple, that means your model has a very low number of trainable parameters. That means if the number of parameters are less to learn the more complex task, then model will not be able to learn the complex task using less number of trainable parameters, right? Because to learn the complex problem, the model requires higher number of trainable parameters. The trainable parameters, that means weights, right? So in linear regression, we have weights like y is equal to mx plus c, the line equation. So m is the slope and c is the intercept. So the m and c is the weights. So c will be the bias and m will be the slope, and that is equivalent to weights. So here, the trainable parameters, if the trainable parameters are very less, so for example, if you want to understand it more clearly, then you see this data. If this data is properly fitting under the curve, then line will not be enough to fit this data. So probably polynomial regression will be much better option for this problem than the linear regression. So that might be also the reason. So you have to switch the technique in this case. Ways to tackle the underfitting problem. Let's see. Increase the number of features in the data set. Yes, if you have data set size is very less and a number of feature is very less, then your model will not be able to identify the example with those number of features. So you have to increase the number of features so that model make a distinction between the data points, right? And the second solution is increase model complexity. As I have explained you earlier, if linear regression is not enough for this problem, then you might need to apply polynomial regression. So you have to switch the model. Like simple model is not working, then you have to go for the more complex model, because your task might be more complex, or the data set might be more complex. So that is the reason simple model is not working well, and it is giving you underfitting performance. And the third solution is reduce noise in the data. Yes, you have to clean the data properly. And the fourth solution is you have to increase the duration of the training the data. Yes, so sometimes what happens, if you run the model for five number of iterations or five number of epochs, then you will get very less performance. And if you run it for a longer epochs, like for example 50 epochs, or then it will give you higher performance, like results will improve with respect to the uh, iteration. Okay, so these are the techniques that can be used to solve the underfitting problem. Yeah, so in this video, we have understood what is underfitting problem and how can we solve this problem, and what are the reasons for the model face underfitting problem, and how can we solve this. So hope you have understood this video, and see you in the next video. Bye.